Yesterday was a crazy day in the National Football League. Got to watch football with my dad for the first time this season. It was a lot of fun. And we were going all over the place watching a ton of games. And we saw some heavyweight championship bouts, Steelers and Ravens. And there were some really good games on Sunday. Some games that went down to the wire. Some family business was being attended to. The Chargers and the Broncos in a nice comeback by Drew Lock. I love that guy. But, man, a lot of upsets, too. Things that I didn't see coming. That's why you got to love this league, because you just don't know. You think you know, but you really have no idea. Who else could it be but me, your man, Louie T. Welcome to the 106th installment of the LouieTeeNetwork podcast. I, of course, am your set man, Louie T. Thank you for joining me. Wow. Rough Sunday, but a good guy. Picking wise. I think I lost 6 games. Let me look at the ledger here. See what it's talking about. Yeah, 6 losses for the good guy. And it was a rough day. It was a lot of good football, though. And this is the treasure that comes with watching games and your team not having to play. There's a comfort level of not having the stress of your team playing out. I miss watching the boys, always, but there's like this release, this weight off your shoulders when, you want certain teams to win because there's a rooting interest, because you probably have something on this or that, or, I'm in a bunch of pools and whatnot, or I'm in winners and losers, and then I'm in my weekly pick'em pool. So obviously there are teams that you want to win, sides that you're on, but if it doesn't happen, it doesn't happen. You're not emotionally invested necessarily. But yesterday was crazy, man. I mean, Tua gets his first start. He gets drilled on his first pass attempt, fumbles the ball. And then the Dolphins go apeshit on defense and special teams and rout the Los Angeles Rams. Green Bay and Minnesota, the Vikings scoring their first 4 possessions of the game. And each team only has 2 possessions in the first half. It's crazy. Kirk Cousins only threw 14 passes in the game. And they go to Green Bay and they win. Really? Didn't see that one coming. I think there was one more, upset that I didn't really see coming. Oh, yeah. Cincinnati. And, I told everybody and anybody that was anybody that Cincinnati was going to be a lot better a football team this year than people thought. And it hasn't translated to wins necessarily. They're only 2-4 and or 2-5-1 at this point of the season. But they've been in some games. They should have beat Indianapolis. I thought they should have beat the Browns last week. They could easily be a 4 or 5 win team right now if they'd been able to take care of business earlier in the season. They easily could have beaten Philadelphia in week number 3 this season. So they've had opportunities, and they're a young team, and that's what you expect. Burrow tried to throw this game away, too. He tried to make this a lot more competitive and closer than it had to be. He threw a pick in the fourth quarter when you can't turn it over there. And luckily enough for him, it was pass interference on the play, and it negated that pick, and they ultimately were able to run off a little bit more clock and cruise to a victory. But I'll tell you what, man, this Sunday was wacky, man. It was crazy. The Bears and the Saints game was a really good contest. And there were a lot of chippy games as well. How about Cam Newton fumbling the football, late in that game? They're already in field goal range for the tie. Worst case scenario, he puts it on the carpet, and they lose that game to the Bills. And really, that was I got to stop dismissing Miami like they're not in that division and they're not fighting. They're fighting. They're taking New England's place as the team that's going to compete with Buffalo this year in that division. The Patriots stink. The Dolphins are really good. They're a well-coached team. And I said that it was funny because last year everyone was making fun of, Brian Flores and Chris Greer and that Dolphins organization, and they're this and they're that, and they're trading everybody. What are they doing? And I said, look, I don't know if this is going to work or not, but I can tell you this, they're doing it their way. And they're getting all the guys that don't believe, that don't want to buy in, that don't want to be there. They're getting rid of those guys, and they're getting a bunch of draft capital back in exchange for those players. And I'm just saying, they're putting themselves in a position to speed up this process. They went out, they spent money in free agency, and I like the way that they've handled this Tua situation. I like the fact that they're putting him in the mix while they're in the midst of chasing a playoff berth. I want to see what this guy's capable of. He in high-pressure situations throughout his career, he's proven that the moment's never too big for him. And you go all the way back to his first, real action in college football, in the national championship game, coming in at halftime for Jalen Hurts and leading Alabama back versus Georgia en route to winning that national championship, throwing the touchdown in overtime on a third and forever. He's shown the ability to rise to the occasion in these big-time spots. I want to see what this guy has. The Dolphins, I didn't see that one coming. And so there were a lot of games yesterday where you just didn't see it coming. Kind of got blindsided by the end result, but a lot of good football games yesterday. So before we get there, though, I got a lot of compliments on my haircut last night, and it was much needed. All right, let me tell you a quick story. So get to the barbershop yesterday, or Friday, matter of fact. Got the cut Friday. And I got to the barbershop. My barber was there. He was finishing up a cut, and I was next. And I just looked at him and I said, man, I've never been more happier to see you in my life. And so I get in the chair, and he asked me, so, when's the last time you've been here to get a cut? And I was like, man, it's been a while, man. I think like July. I think it's the last time I've gotten a cut from you. And he was like, wow, it's been that long. I was like, yeah, but in between, I got a cut from somebody else. I said, I've never been more nervous in my life. And he was laughing, and he was like, so how did you find this guy? And I told him, I said, well, my girl found him, on, IG, and I looked at something. He said, wait, hold. Your girl found him? You're not allowed to let your girl find you a barber. What are you doing? I'm like, well, she was on IG, and she found a guy. His work didn't look too bad. I looked over it. It was okay. It wasn't great, but, it was a start, getting your foot in the door. I needed somebody to bring me back from the dead at that moment. I was dead. I needed somebody to revive me. So at that point, I was searching, and she's like, yeah, it's easy. You just go on. He said, style seat? What are we doing right now, man? He said, what are you doing? I'm like, look, man, I still looked at the work first. He didn't want to hear that. He said, you're not allowed to let your girl get involved in this process at all. He might be right, but it just felt so good to get in the chair, chop it up, and know I was going to come out of the chair with a quality cut, man. I got to find somebody fast, man. I can't keep doing this, okay? I can't keep doing this. But, man, that felt so good. I felt so alive. I started going places just because after that cut, I didn't have to go anywhere. I could have just took my behind to my parents' house and just chilled for the rest of the day. But I wanted to be out and about. I felt alive after that cut. I've been going for so long. I was like, man, I'm back like cooked crack. I need the world to know it. So, I was out and about, running the streets, went to the mall. I don't go to the mall. I'm not a mall guy. So that's the power of a quality haircut, man. It can change your life. And it did for me this weekend. And feels good to be back in the game. I was out of it for a while there, but I'm back. And I intend to stay. Now, it's just a matter of finding somebody now. So, all right, enough of that. Let's get to the gym dropping session, shall we? Yes, we shall. Let me drop this gem on your melon. Open your mind, let your conscience be free. You're now rolling with your man, Louie T-double-E. Let me open you up. Get you thinking a little bit. So, the NFL trade deadline is vastly approaching. Tomorrow is actually the deadline. I was talking last night, And I thought that the deadline was going to be on Wednesday. I was even talking Thursday. And I remember at one point they were talking about potentially pushing back the trade deadline, but they never went through with that. So it's Tuesday, 4 o'clock will be the deadline. And somebody, I think it was my man Gregory Lightbody, who said, hey, I think we're going to see a lot of trades tomorrow. And I was like, nah, Monday's early. If the deadline's Wednesday, you'll probably see a lot of trade deadline deals on Tuesday. Well, he was right, because the deadline is Tuesday, so you usually see a lot of deals go through the day before. You might see a couple more tomorrow as teams try to get in their last second deals, but we've seen a couple today already. We saw Quan Alexander be traded to the New Orleans Saints. And if you remember correctly, the 49ers were trying to get from under that contract last year after the Super Bowl, but he had injured himself, had to have surgery, and they weren't able to move him at that time. So they had to kind of push the pause button on that. Now they've gotten to a point, because Dre Greenlaw played so well as a rookie last year, they were like, okay, we got cheaper, younger labor that's playing just as good, if not better than Quan. We're just going to roll with the young fella. So they've been looking to move Quan Alexander for quite some time. They found a suitor in the Saints. So Quan Alexander on the move, as he's now a New Orleans Saints player. There was another trade that happened. I'm trying to remember and recall who was involved in that particular deal. Oh, that's what it was. The Chargers moved safety King to the Tennessee Titans. And what's interesting there is that I thought the Titans had safety depth. They've struggled in the secondary, but it's primarily, to me, been at the cornerback position. They got Jonathan Joseph out there. He's 97 years old, and I've always said that the cornerback position is no country for old men. You can only get away with older corners for so long. If you're savvy enough, if you had speed to burn, then maybe you can hang around like a Terrence Newman, who played. It's so rare to see a guy play that long into his. I think Terrence Newman had to be every bit of 39, 37, 38, 39, somewhere in there when he finally hung it up in Minnesota. But Terrence Newman came in as a 4.3 guy, so he had speed to burn. He could lose a step or two and still be faster than most corners in the league. Not most guys aren't built that way. So, it's amazing, because King, I remember him bursting onto the scene like 2-3 years ago, and he was a guy that was a tremendous return man. He was dynamite one year, had like 2 or 3 returns for touchdowns, and he just seemed like a playmaker, a guy that was always around the ball. And for whatever reason, they've gone in a totally different direction. Rayshawn Jenkins and Kazir White and a couple of other guys have played a lot more, and Nasir Adderley have played a lot more football for them at the safety position. And King really hasn't been able to get on the field, and I guess he's become expendable. And I guess the Titans, who I thought, Amani Hooker, they just drafted not too long ago. Obviously, they've still got, my man from Middle Tennessee State. That's a hell of a safety that's always around the football. I just thought they had enough guys back there at the safety position, but apparently not. And he's going to come in, and we'll see what kind of juice he can give maybe to the special teams, and maybe he'll even be able to help on the defensive side of the football. We'll see, but that's another trade that took place. We'll see if more trades happen. I surmise that we'll see more trades. I don't think we've seen the last of guys on the move. I think you could see, after a 2-sack performance on Sunday by Browns defensive end Olivier Vernon, I could easily see him moving. It's tough. It's like this balancing act when you've got players that are playing for teams that are still in the playoff chase. It's tough because there's this want to get future assets, but at the same time, you got to also realize that you're in a playoff chase this year, and you got to go for it. Like, Stephen Jones, I was reading a tweet. He was on Sirius XM radio, and he was doing an interview, and they asked, well, why didn't you move Aldon Smith? The Seahawks called you, and they were willing to give up some draft capital for Aldon Smith. And he said, well, we're not out of it yet. Like we feel like they don't have a chance. They stink. But I mean, again, the division is trash too. And he's right. If they would have beat Philadelphia last night, which was a long shot with Ben DiNucci at quarterback, but even after the loss, you're 2-6 and you're still only a game and a half out of first place. So I understand his logic there, but you're not going anywhere this year. But if they see Aldon Smith as a part of the future in Dallas, then okay, cool. But that's the balancing act that a lot of these GMs have to perform. Like if you're Cleveland and you really believe Olivier Vernon helps when he's healthy, which he does, and you just saw Myles Garrett get injured on Sunday, can you really afford to trade away the only other guy that really presents a real true pass rush off the edge opposite Myles Garrett? That's the question you got to ask yourself. Can you now? Yeah, Olivier Vernon, getting up there in age. How much longer is he going to be able to play at a high level? He's been hurt a lot over the last few years. Big number. I understand all of those things. You got to take all those things into consideration as well. But you're in the middle of a playoff chase. You haven't made the playoff in God knows how long. Can you afford to trade away a guy that could potentially help you achieve that goal of making the postseason? And that's, the dilemma for some of these teams. When you're out of it like Houston, you're out of it like San Francisco or, Atlanta or New England or any of these teams that stink that, have made it known, Minnesota, throw them in the mix, that have made it known, hey, we're open for business. Just pick up the phone and call us. We may not tell you something that you want to hear, but at least pick up the phone and give us a ring and hit us up. But, if you're Washington and you're getting phone calls on Ryan Kerrigan, but Kerrigan's still playing an effective role for you, here's the thing that you have to consider. You still have a chance to make the postseason. Kerrigan's been really productive when he's gotten opportunities this year. But this is the thing that you also have to take into consideration. Kerrigan's on a 1-year deal. He's done after this year, and you're not getting him back. After the limited amount of snaps that he's seen this year, Ryan Kerrigan's not coming back after this season. So you can either get something for him and trade him now, or you can let him leave for nothing in the offseason. Your choice. And that's the balance. But again, you're not trying to give him away for a cold, hot ham and cheese sandwich. If someone's like, yeah, I'll slide you a fifth for Ryan Kerrigan, I might as well hold on to him and try to make the postseason this year. Now, if you're like, hey, I'll give you a third for Ryan Kerrigan, hey, take him. He's all yours. But it's a tough balancing act for some of these teams. But I can tell you this much. There are a few teams out there that could use some help, especially on the defensive side of the football. I don't think some major moves need to be done for most of these teams offensively. Although, Green Bay, I think they could use a player or two on each side of the football. I don't know if they're going to do anything or not. That's never been their move to be aggressive at this or any time, of the season or even into the offseason. Green Bay's, that's never been their MO, is to be overly aggressive, whether you're talking free agency, trades, or anything. It's never been who they were or who they are really to this point. But I feel like if they want to take that next step, they're going to have to do something offensively. And it'd be nice. I was talking to my man Cody, and he's like, yeah, we could use a defensive tackle. I saw it yesterday. And I've seen it this season, but I saw it for sure yesterday. They need help up front. So really, I think the problem is linebacker. But you still need help up front, too. You could use anywhere in that front seven, the Packers could use some help. They're getting gashed in the run game. So I don't think we've seen the last of the trade deadline. Wouldn't shock me if Dwayne Haskins gets moved. I don't think he's going to, but it wouldn't shock me if he did. I don't think Kerrigan's going anywhere. I don't think they're really even entertaining trading Ryan Kerrigan, which I think is a mistake. They should at least be listening, if nothing else. But it seems like they're not even really fielding offers from anyone as far as moving Kerrigan is concerned. I wouldn't be shocked to see some more guys move. I don't think you're going to see any major names, but I'd be more shocked if no Texans receiver is traded than the Texans trade a guy or two. I'd be shocked if nobody comes calling and the Texans don't move off of Kenny Stills, Will Fuller, or Randall Cobb. One of those guys you like to think has to be a trade deadline deal before this thing is said and done. I feel like that's got to be the move, But we'll see what happens. In any event, let's move on to slate skating and week number 8 in the National Football League. It was a fantastic week of football. Let's sink our teeth into it. Put your skates on. Let's go cruising around the league as we go slate skate. So we start in Green Bay, NFC North family business. You know how the family do it. And I'm not going to lie to you. I was shocked by this family business right here. I did not expect it to go the way that it did. This was a really impressive performance by the Minnesota Vikings. And, you know, the thing about the Vikings that's so incredible is that they could easily, and we could say that about a number of teams. I just told you that Cincinnati could be, you know, a 4 team right now instead of, you know, 2-5-1. You know, we could talk about Atlanta and how many leads they've blown this year and what they could be record-wise right now instead of what they are. Minnesota's another one of those teams, you know. Easily could have beaten Tennessee. Should have beat Seattle. And, you know, maybe if you win those games, you don't lose to Atlanta. You know, it's amazing how their season has gone and opportunities that they've squandered this season to win games that they probably should have won. But at the end of the day, here they are coming into this game at 1-6. They're struggling, or 1-5. No, I think they were 1-6 coming into this contest, if I'm not mistaken. They had a bye week though, so I don't think they were 1-6. I think they were 1-5, but they had punted on the season. You know, Danielle Hunter had surgery already. They traded away Yannick Ngakoue. They punted on the season. So, you know, I wasn't expecting this type of effort, but this is what you get when family members lock horns. Vikings get the win 28-22 over the Green Bay Packers in what was a fun game. The 2 possessions apiece for both teams in the game, and all touchdowns in the first half. Long drives for both teams each time they touch the football. And you look up and it's 14-14 at the half. And you're like, wow, okay. And the difference in the game was Green Bay stopped scoring and they struggled. The biggest difference for me was, one, the Packers have a Dalvin Cook problem. Especially at Lambeau for whatever reason. I mean, they struggle with Dalvin Cook regardless, home, away, but they seem to struggle even more so with him. If you remember that game last year, I think it was a week 1 contest, might have been a week 2 contest, where Dalvin Cook went apeshit on the Packers in that game. And if not for the defense stepping up late, they lose that game. I think that was like a 22-21 game last year. And Dalvin Cook went apeshit in that game. Well, he did it again, over 200 yards of total offense, 4 touchdowns. All 4 of the Vikings scores in this game on the legs of Dalvin Cook coming back from his injury. He looked fresh and he looked ready to carve up some cheese, and he did in a major way. But, you know, also the Packers were 0 of 3 on 4th down in this game. That was also costly because they had opportunities to score. They had opportunities to keep possessions alive, but they were unable to do that. You know, they were unable to convert in some critical situations, and it really cost them in this football game. So, you know, you don't convert on 4th downs, you don't convert on some 3rd downs, and they had a lot of penalties. They had a lot of 3rd and longs and got themselves back into some manageable situations, and they weren't able to convert. Another thing I noticed about Green Bay in this game before we get to Minnesota quickly is they need another guy. And maybe Allen Lazard comes back from injury and this is a moot point. But that's why I feel like Green Bay needs to do something, because Davante Adams is a beast. But, you know, he's always one snap away from tweaking a hammy, turning an ankle, and now you're back to this ridiculous ragtag bunch of receivers that you're hoping Rodgers is able to drag along for some victories while he's buying time for Davante Adams to get back. But with Adams in the lineup and Robert Tonyan out there, you've got 2 guys he can trust. But there's really not much more than that. He needs one more guy he can rely on offensively. I think that's going to stagnate this team's offense against quality opponents, is when they say, all right, We're going to take away Devontae Adams. If Robert Tonyan wants to get us, sure, go right ahead. He had a big catch down the field. But Rodgers also missed Jay Sternberger wide ass open. And it's not a theme of Rodgers, because the throw he makes to Devontae Adams to cut it to a 28-20 game is ridiculous, and it's Aaron Rodgers-esque. It's what he does best. Ridiculous touch, exactly where it had to be, in a tight space where only his guy could get it. It's ridiculous. But he missed Sternberger. Remember I said that was a big throw that he missed over the middle. I want to say it was to Mercedes Lewis against the Buccaneers, and I thought at that time it was a momentous miss. That was a momentous miss to Sternberger, because the Vikings had turned the tide. They had taken the lead 21-14. You're on your heels, and you got a guy running wide open. I don't know how far it's going to go, but that looked like it had 55 yards inside the Vikings 15 written all over it, and he misses him. And so I got to give credit where credit is due. The Vikings scored on their first 4 possessions. Both possessions in the first half, the first possession of the third quarter, their second possession of the third quarter. And just like that, they go from trailing 14-7 to up 28-14 in this ball game. And they did it on the strength of Dalvin Cook, as I mentioned. Kirk Cousins only threw the football 14 times. It was amazing, and they just had no answer for Cook. They weren't able to do enough offensively. They had a bunch of penalties and mistakes, and that'll get you beat by a team that, when you look at their record, they're not very good, but we all know the Vikings have talent, and they showed it in this game. Good to know that Cameron Dantzler, who was carted off in this game on a stretcher, has feeling in all of his extremities. He's going to be okay. That's always scary when you see a guy immobilized and taken off the field in a stretcher, but he seems to be in good spirits and doing well. So Vikings go into Green Bay, get the win 28-22. Rodgers was hit on a last-second Hail Mary attempt. He was gonna, that's a dangerous proposition to let him get it off. I want to say it was Odenigbo that was able to get to him and knock the football free and end the game. If he gets that thing into the air, all bets are off. We've seen him complete way too many of those. So that was a big save there late in that ball game as the Vikings hold on 28-22. That's a tough loss if you're the Green Bay Packers, because you're trying to get home field advantage. You may not get the number 1 seed in the NFC playoffs, but you're looking to get your hands on some home field cooking, some home cooking come playoff time. And losses like these are the ones that are going to come back and bite you in the ass. When you look around the landscape of the NFC and some of the really good teams, Seattle, obviously, Tampa Bay is another good team. You're going to see them in action tonight. Can't afford to lose these types of games, not against a Vikings team that seemed like they were punting on the season. And so this is a tough one to stomach if you're Green Bay. You go to the jungle. Welcome to the jungle. We got fun and games. Another top tier team losing to a team that they had no business losing to. And Green Bay had no business, and that's family business. I'll cut the Packers a break because family business is different than any other type of business. This, however, is not family business here. Titans at the Bengals. This is a young upstart team in the Bengals searching for an identity, trying to find a way to win games. And you're the Titans. You're coming off your first loss of the season, but we're starting to look at you totally different. Even in a loss last week, we say, hey, man, got to start paying attention to this Titans team. They're no joke. And then you come out and you look like a joke in week number 8. And that's disappointing if you're the Tennessee Titans, because the score really doesn't do this game any justice. It was 31-20, the final score. But at one point it was 31-14. You were getting your brains bashed in by this Cincinnati Bengals team. There were some calls that didn't go your way in this game. Adam Humphries gets knocked out of the game essentially. No flag on that play late in the first half. You throw a 15-yard penalty there, more likely than not, you're going to get into really comfortable field goal range and maybe be able to get some points before the half and maybe some momentum there. But you had a penalty on a Jayon Brown pick late that would have really changed the outcome of this game, I think, significantly. Even if you don't win, you make the Bengals sweat. And for a team that's blown leads late and hasn't been able to figure out how to win and close the show in ball games, You put that kind of game pressure on Cincinnati late in that game. I don't know. You may come back and steal this one from them, but that pass interference call was a big one there. There were, like I said, there were some big calls in the game, some big plays made. But when it's all said and done, Joe Burrow was fantastic in this game. So was his fellow rookie, T. Higgins. And Tyler Boyd made a ridiculous catch on a third down. Tyler Boyd is so good. Another one of those really underrated, underappreciated receivers around the league because he plays in Cincinnati, so nobody really knows what he's doing. He might be, and I know this is crazy because Calvin Ridley is out there, and there are a couple of teams. You look at Dallas, and you can talk about Gallup, and there's so many good number two. He might be the best number two receiver in the league, and nobody talks about this guy. Tyler Boyd is legit. He was really good in this game as well. How about the emergence of Giovanni Bernard in the absence of Joe Mixon? You know, you got to have somebody step up. I actually thought that another guy that stepped up and had a solid, performance on the ground in this game was Samaje Perine. I thought they did a really good job of keeping some semblance of balance so that it wasn't all on the shoulders of Joe Burrow. But his shoulders are broad. He can take it. And there was one play, it didn't amount to much, but it's just the magic that is Joe Burrow. He should have been sacked like 2 different times on the play. He escapes somehow and then runs for like 5 or 6 yards. It was like 3rd and 13. He didn't pick up a first down, but it just goes to show you. And then there was another play where he escapes, finds Tyler Boyd on that 3rd down I talked about. It was a crazy throw, an even better catch because he didn't even see the football until it literally was on him. And somehow he still catches it. Burrow is just exceptional. Now, he's prone to making those back-breaking mistakes late in games, and he made one in this game, and as I told you, the officials bailed him out. But when it's all said and done, I don't think Tennessee ran it enough, and it's crazy because Derrick Henry went over 100 yards. I saw 3 different backs out there running the football. Deontay Foreman, the McNichols kid. They were all running it well. Honestly, I thought they could have run it a lot more because Cincinnati really didn't have any answers for them on the ground. But they made some mistakes. The first possession of the game, you're in field goal range, and Ryan Tannehill throws an interception in the end zone on the first possession of the game. It's things like that. You don't want to give a team like Cincinnati confidence early in the game, and that interception really gave them confidence, and they ran with that confidence. And before you know it, they were up 17-7 at the half. That lead grew and ballooned to 31 to 14, and Titans weren't able to have that late game magic like they were against Jacksonville or against Minnesota or even against Pittsburgh, where they were able to scratch and claw their way back. Cincinnati was able to keep them at bay, and the Bengals get their second win of the season, 31-20. Titans now, after starting 5-0, they're now 0-2 in their last 2 games, and now we're looking at you and saying, okay, maybe you weren't among the AFC elite. Maybe we should have continued to look at you as a surprise. Now you're tied for first in your division with the Indianapolis Colts at 5-2. We'll see what happens in that division. It's starting to get really interesting now with those 2 teams. Speaking of the Indianapolis Colts, they took care of business on the road at Detroit. Wow. I thought they could win this game. I've told you I'm not a big Detroit Lions fan. I don't love their football team. I don't love their coaching staff, this, that, and the third. But to give up 40, didn't see that coming. They dominated this game, did the Indianapolis Colts, especially in the second half. 41-20 is the final score, or 41-21 final score in this game. This team is dangerous, and I said this like 4 weeks ago. This team is going to be dangerous if Phillip Rivers doesn't turn it over. If he's turning it over, if he's throwing 2 picks, if he's fumbling the football, they're going to struggle. If he's taking care of the ball, they've got enough weapons, and I love their defense. And I said this already. I said this last night. I've said this before in the past. I strongly believe this. Matt Eberflus is going to be a head coach in this league. That defense plays football. They've got some really elite players, but they've got a bunch of guys that are just role players for the most part. Now they've got some budding stars too. You know, the safety from Utah that's a rookie, I really like him. I've talked about him on the rookie wall several times this season. Obviously, they trade for Defoe. We know what Darius Leonard is in the middle of that defense. Never, ever trust a man with 2 first names. Xavier Rhodes is having a resurgence to his career. He was left for dead in Minnesota. But when you look around that group, it's a bunch of ragtag guys that, you know, other teams around the league wouldn't necessarily be excited to have. You know, I'm a big Moore fan in the slot, but, you know, no one's going to beat down your door for Danico Autry. You know, no one's going to beat your door down for Stewart. But all these guys are contributors. All these guys play their roles very well on this football team. I had given up on the ex-Kansas City Chiefs edge rusher, Justin Houston. I'd given up on him. Injuries and age, and he's still playing at a high level. They're getting it done defensively. Matt Eberflus deserves a lot of credit for that. And the offense feeds off of what they get defensively. And again, nothing flashy. T.Y. Hilton hasn't been T.Y. Hilton this year, you know, but they're getting contributions from all over the place. Marcus Johnson making plays here and there. You know, you get some. The star of the show offensively in this game was Nyheim Hines. I love Nyheim Hines. You know, listen to this, and this just goes to show you the lack of explosion in Indy this year with T.Y. Hilton not being himself. In the first quarter, Nyheim Hines catches a little loft job over the top from Phillip Rivers, and he does the rest. Gets up the sideline, beautiful spin move, dives for the pylon. It's like a 26-yard touchdown. First touchdown of over 20 yards this season for Indianapolis's offense. Think about that. We're 8 weeks into the season. That's the first time they've had a ball. And that ball didn't even travel 20 yards in the air. That was a dump off at the line of scrimmage that went 26 yards for a touchdown. First touchdown passing of 20 yards or more this season. Wow. And then it was so nice they decided to do it twice. Nyheim Hines with another big ball. This time, that was a deep ball. A great catch. Even better throw from Rivers. And they opened up a 20-7 lead. The Lions would cut that deficit to 6 at 20-14. And then the Colts would just run away and hide in the second half. They were outstanding. Got a couple of mistakes from the Lions. And they couldn't get any defensive stops. And next thing you know, it's 41 to 21 in that game. And that's an impressive win because the Lions were playing confident football. They had won 2 in a row. They were at home. They were feeling good. And the Colts come off the bye and they smacked those boys in their mouth early in that game and said, "You're not on our level." And the Lions said, "You're right." And by the second half, they kind of relented. And next thing you know, they ran away and hid with that football game. And so now you're tied atop that division at 5-2 if you're Indianapolis, and you're right where you need to be. You're right there within striking distance. This is the team I said was going to win this division this year, in the Indianapolis Colts, and they've got a chance to do it now that Tennessee's kind of come crashing back down to earth. As the Lions, who had a chance to get back to 500 on the season here with a win, you know, actually they were 3-3 and back to 500 already. They dropped to under 500 at 3-4 with this loss, and we'll see what happens with the Lions moving forward. You get to the next game, Jets at the Kansas City Chiefs. Not really much to talk about in this football game. The Jets are the worst team in football. We know this to be a fact. The Chiefs are one of the best teams in football. So we knew this was going to be an ass thrashing. The question wasn't if, it was how bad. All right. And 35-9 was the final damage count. And I think the Chiefs really spared them in this game. Look, the Jets aren't good. They're not going to be good. And I don't know. It doesn't look like Adam Gase is going to get canned. So if he's the coach, that means they're probably going to go 0-16. I don't think if they fire him now and they give Greg Williams a shot, they got a chance to win 2 or 3 games. I firmly believe that. I know it sounds crazy. They're that bad. This defense isn't as bad as you think. This defense is suffering from an offense that is just the worst. It's the absolute worst. They got no talent. They got no shot offensively. And every week they go out there and they leave the defense out high and dry because they can't sustain offense and the defense is on the field way too much. And this is another one of those situations where the defense got down early because the offense didn't produce. And before you know it, this game had gotten out of control. the Chiefs did the right thing. Though. This is what you do to bad teams. You jump on them early. Let's not let you hang around. I think the Chiefs put up 21 in the first half or something like that. First of all, once you get to the 20s, the Jets are out of the mix. If they want to win a game, they're going to have to do it, 19-13 or 19-16. You go partying in the 20s with the Jets, with the way they're inept on offense, it's lights out for them. They gotta hold somebody down. That's why they almost won against Buffalo last week. Why? Because the Bills didn't make it to 20. That was an 18-10 ball game. That's the kind of game that they're gonna have to win because they're so bad offensively. They've got to bring you down to their level. They've got to pull you down, and you've got to play their game. If you get to the 20s, they're dead. The Chiefs did that in the first half. They cruised the rest of the way. Mahomes and company get it done. Not really much to see here. Keep it moving. Chiefs are now, I think they're 7-1. I don't know if they've had an off week. I don't think they've had a bye to this point. I think they're 7-1 are the Chiefs. And it's the most quiet 7-1 I've ever seen before. Like, nobody's talking about the Chiefs this year. Everybody's talking about Seattle. Everybody's talking about Tampa Bay. Everybody's talking about Pittsburgh. And hell, even the Ravens are getting a little bit more love. I think the Titans have stole a little bit of the spotlight away. I think that's going to fade now with this second loss in a row and losing to Cincinnati. But nobody's really talking Chiefs. I kind of feel like they're going under the radar, and I think they wouldn't have it any other way right now. They're an interesting team because it doesn't feel like the last couple of years with Mahomes where they've had it on tilt offensively, but I think they're fully capable if given the opportunity, and if they have to, they can rev up the engine like we saw them against Baltimore do it. I don't think they have to do that. I don't think teams want them to do that. I think teams are playing two safeties deep and saying run the football, and they're saying, okay, we will. Don't worry, we can do that this year with Clyde Edwards-Helaire. We can do that now with Le'Veon Bell. We don't have to throw it. If you don't want us to, we won't. We can run it. We're good. And so they're interesting because I think this kind of football translates to December and into January for them. If teams are going to say, we're not going to let you get the explosive big-time plays, okay, cool, we'll run it. They are positioned with Le'Veon Bell and now Clyde Edwards-Helaire. They're now positioned to be able to do that if they need to. They take care of business 35-9, dominate the Jets. Jets are now 0-8 on the season, and the bye week can't come fast enough for them. It's not going to make a big difference, but it's just 1 week where they don't have to take a loss. And I know the jokes are going to be they're still going to lose on their bye week. That's probably so. Chiefs are now 7-1, and they're kind of cruising along. Pittsburgh at Baltimore was the game of the day. You're talking 6-0, or excuse me, 7-0. No, 6-0. I said that right. Pittsburgh, and you're talking 5-1 Baltimore, and this was the game everybody wanted to see. I thought Baltimore was going to take these guys out. I knew it was going to be tough. Lamar always struggles with the Steelers' defense. That I talked about that before, but I thought I told you something's still missing with this Steelers' offense. I'm not convinced about their offense. Ben turned it over 3 times against the Titans. I think he might even turn it over. It was 3 turnovers, three interceptions last week. They still found a way to win. This defense has been exceptional this year, and they were again. If not for this defense, and I know Ben and company stood up tall when they had to. After the Ravens took it down the field, took the lead 24-21, that could have been it. If the Steelers offensively don't respond, that could have been it. But they take it down the field. They get in the end zone, and they score a touchdown, and that was a big score in that game because it then put game pressure on Baltimore, where you got to go down, and you're not able to get a Justin Tucker field goal here. You need a touchdown, and we got one of the best defenses in the league. And the thing about this Steelers defense is they've been in this position so many times this season where they've had to get a stop to preserve a victory. So this isn't uncharted territory for them. And this is why the regular season is so important. You want your team in these types of situations because you want to see how they're going to handle it, because this builds a toughness, a hard exterior. When your team is able to find a way to grit their teeth and get these kind of victories, it gives you the confidence that in these situations, we're going to find a way to get it done because we've done it a number of times. And you can look at the Steelers season, whether it's against Denver early in this season, or even, I know this wasn't for the game, but really that Giants, the marathon drive the Giants had, like a 19-play drive where they're eating up the entire third quarter, and the Steelers are on the ropes. It's 16-10. If the Giants score there a touchdown, they take the lead pending an extra point. It's a totally different ball game. And instead, they hit Daniel Jones. He throws up a flutter ball, and they pick it off, and that game was never the same. But you look at that Broncos game. They needed a stop to preserve the victory there against the Broncos. They get the stop. The Eagles had them on the ropes. They needed a stop to preserve the victory. They get the stop. You look at the game against Tennessee last week. Yeah, look, the Titans missed a field goal. But the field goal was missed because it was a long field goal. That defense bowed its back and forced Tennessee to have to attempt a long field goal, and they got it done. After the offense continued to turn over the football and make a mess of a situation that didn't even need to be in the position that it was in. They should have never been in a position to tie the game with a field goal because Ben threw a poor interception. They had to stop them from getting into a close field goal range and sending that game to overtime, and they did. The Titans should have made the field goal, but the defense, they were able to get the stops necessary. And you saw it again here. The Ravens twice had opportunities to do something in this game. And really, I look at that 17-7 halftime lead for the Ravens, first possession of the second half for Baltimore, and Lamar Jackson's picked off. And the Steelers get the touchdown, and the game really was never the same after that. I mean, you look at the Spillane interception, the pick six to start the game, which was crazy, because I'm not used to seeing Lamar Jackson turn it over like that. This was his first 2 interception game in God knows how long. He doesn't throw a lot of interceptions. You can call him inaccurate or he's this, he's that. He didn't throw a lot of interceptions. He didn't turn it over a time. That interception in the second half to start by Pittsburgh that set them up with great field position. They were able to get in the end zone. That was the real game changer there because they were kind of lifeless at that point. Ravens had firm control of the game. They're up double digits, 2 scores. And all they got to do at this point is just not allow any big plays. And they had them, and that interception changed the whole tenor of the ball game. And Pittsburgh went off on a little mini run, took the lead 21-17. The Ravens kind of stalled out offensively. It took them until early stages of the fourth to retake the lead. I think we might have even been in the mid stages of the fourth to take the lead there at 24-21. The Steelers, and this is the thing about the Steelers, I talk about their offense seems like it's a little off, like they're missing something, but when they are needed, they've stepped up this season. They found ways to get it done, and they did it on this possession. They go to the length of the field. Ben gets them into the end zone. I thought a guy that was huge offensively in this game was Eric Ebron. I thought Ebron was outstanding. Easy E. He might have played one of his better games as a Pittsburgh Steeler, and I think this was his indoctrination into this rivalry. I thought he was huge in this game. When they needed big plays, Easy E stepped up and made big plays for the Steelers in this game. Third down conversions, touchdowns, things of that nature. He was huge. He was massive in this game, but the defense needed to stop after they took the lead 28-24. The defense needed to stop twice. They had to do it twice. 4th and 1. Lamar Jackson decides, 4th and 2 actually, I think it was. Lamar Jackson decides he wants to take off. Huge play by Bugs, the interior defensive lineman, to come off the block and get to Lamar's legs and stop him from getting to the first down. Might have been 4th and 3. Felt like a little bit longer, but the quarterback draw was there. If Bugs doesn't come off of his block and make that tackle, Lamar's going to get that first down. And you get Minkah Fitzpatrick in there who knocks the football away out of his hands, as he's trying to stretch, forces the fumble. It didn't matter. He was short of the sticks. He wasn't going to get the first down. And then the Ravens get the football back, and they move it down the field. And they got a shot at the end zone. And Minkah Fitzpatrick makes a hell of a play on the football because you could have easily called, a penalty. If he's headhunting, if he's going after the receiver there, they're going to throw the flag. That football is just as much his as it is the receiver's when it's in the air like that. And he goes and makes a play on the ball, and he does make contact with the helmet of that receiver, but it doesn't matter. He's going after the football. And they don't throw the flag, and it was the right call. You do not throw the flag in that situation. And the Steelers hold on. to this football game, 28-24. I thought that Willie Snead was huge on the Ravens side of things. Hollywood Brown. Hollywood was not happy after this game. Didn't feel like he got enough targets. He's probably right. He's a difference maker. And he had a paid in full tweet after the game. He quickly took it down. What good is having soldiers if you ain't going to use them? But he quickly took it down. This Ravens football team, something's off there too. Something's off there. But this is a big win. I can't wait to watch this again on Thanksgiving. This was so good. This was such a good game. It was a little chippy. There was an ejection in this game. I can't wait to watch this again on Thanksgiving night. This, to me, is the best rivalry in football right now. This was a really good football game. And I know they're going to play one more time. I wouldn't be shocked if they played 2 more times. I don't know if we've seen the last of this, even when we see it again on Thanksgiving. Man, was that fun. Can't wait to see it again. Steelers remain the NFL's lone unbeaten team. 28-24. They're now 7-0 on the season. Ravens dropped to 5-2. Tough loss of your Baltimore. You had opportunities in this game. Too many mistakes. Too many turnovers. Too many missed opportunities. You don't get it done. Rams at Dolphins. This was one of the surprises of the day. If Tennessee losing to Cincinnati was the biggest surprise, I think this might have been the second biggest surprise. Didn't see this coming, especially not the way it transpired. Dolphins win this game 28-17 over the Rams. It was total domination. The score doesn't really do it any justice. This was a thorough ass beating here that was handed out by the Dolphins. Domination on special teams and on defense. You get a punt return from Jakeem Grant. You get a couple of picks thrown by Jared Goff. He was awful in the first half of this game. Settled in the second half, but it was too little too late. Dolphins pick him off twice. They hit him. He fumbles. It's scooped up by Van Ginkel. And Rick Van Ginkel fell the hell asleep. And he takes it the other way for a touchdown. That was a massive play in the game because that's a 90-yard fumble return. The Rams were going in for points. Massive swing in the game. Tua just had to manage the game, essentially. It was funny. His first play, and I told this story last night. I'll tell it again here quickly. Tua's first snap offensively, I think it was a handoff, and my sister's like, yo, switch that, because we had the split screen on the direct TV, and one screen you can hear the audio along with the game, the other you can't. So we had the Steelers game on the side with the audio, and we had the Dolphins game on the side without the audio. And so she's like, yo, put the Dolphins game. I want to hear about this Tua guy. I don't even know who he is. And so before we could get the remote to try to make the switch, he's getting scooped up by Michael Brockers. Aaron Donald is knocking the ball out of his hands, and it's Rams football. She's like, oh, well, never mind. I was like, yo. And I remember somebody very vividly saying this when they inserted him in the lineup on the bye week. Why would you expose him to Aaron Donald in his first career NFL start? And I'm like, look, he's got to learn at some point. Put him in there. Let's see what he's got. Can't be worried about Aaron Donald, and that's the reason you're not going to start him. And sure enough, his first possession, he met Aaron Donald and Michael Brockers, and I'm like, uh-oh. And everybody was tweeting at me, your boy's fumbling. He's going to be a bust. This, that, and the third. He's just fine. Took him down the field later on in the game, threw a touchdown pass to Devontae Parker. Again, he didn't have to do much in this game. I think he was like 12 of 17. He didn't have to do much. They didn't need him to do much. Just manage the game. Don't turn it over. Defense and special teams doing everything we need them to do. And they get it done 28. And don't look now. The Dolphins are 4-3. They're over 500. They're in second place in the AFC East. They're right there in the mix in the AFC East divisional race. They're right there for a wild card spot. Like, the Dolphins are hanging around, man. They're one of the surprises of this 2020 season thus far. The job that Brian Flores is doing has been incredible. And now you got a rookie quarterback in there, and we're going to see how this thing continues to mature as this season progresses. But the defense, I think, is the biggest surprise with the Dolphins. We didn't expect them to be this good, this fast defensively. Even with some of the injuries that they've had, like Byron Jones getting banged up and like Xavier Howard in and out of the lineup every now and again, they've been really good up front. You know, they got after the quarterback against the Rams, and they abused Jared Goff. They made him skittish. He missed some throws because of the pressure. This was a good performance by the Dolphins, and it's right in line with what they've done this season. They've been a good football team, and they just continue to impress week in and week out. The Rams are still an enigma for me. I told you I'm not sold on the Rams, even though I still think they're going to be a playoff team when it's all said and done. They're an enigma for me. They are a lot like Green Bay, and it's amazing because Green Bay, to me, it's three teams. Green Bay, Rams, Browns. They're, to me, three teams that if you get them out of their offensive rhythm, you can destroy them. They have to be able to run, and they're all from the same tree. They're all from that Shanahan tree. They're all from that, zone run blocking, stretch offense, play action fake. We're gonna run to set up the pass, and we're gonna, heavy run fakes. They all are so, to me, game plan oriented. Like, this is how we have to win. If we have to deviate from what we do, we're in trouble. To me, if you're playing the Browns, the Rams, or the Packers right now, just get them to deviate or get out in front. Easier said than done. I get it, especially when you're talking about Green Bay. But if you can get out in front, or if you can slow down the run game and you can force them away from what it is they want to do, I haven't seen the ability of these coaches from that way of thinking, from that lineage, from that tree. I haven't seen their ability to then adapt and adjust. Okay, we're down big. We got to throw it. The run game isn't really viable right now. What do? I haven't seen those three coaches be the one guy from that tree. Zach Taylor is the only guy right now that I've seen be able to adapt and adjust to, okay, run game's not working. Game plan was to run it, go play action fake like we normally do. They've taken that away. What do we do next? The Rams, to me, are a team, if you get into them early, you slow down the run game, you make them uncomfortable, they can get their asses beat bad. And they got embarrassed by the 49ers on a Sunday night. They were almost embarrassed by the Bills. They were down big in that game, 28-3, before roaring back. And they were down big in this game and getting embarrassed. Like, they're too regimented offensively. I feel that way about Green Bay. I feel that way about Cleveland. They're too regimented offensively to where if they got to get away from it, can they do it? I'm not sure they can. Anyway, Dolphins 4-3, playing good football, man. They've had some impressive wins. We talk about the mighty NFC West. Well, the Dolphins are mowing that division down. They came within a possession of beating Seattle, the best that division has to offer. They haven't seen Arizona yet, but I think they are very capable of beating the Cardinals. And they mowed down the 49ers, embarrassed them, and now they've taken out the Rams. Look, man, this Dolphins team, not to be fooled with. They're playing good football. Meanwhile, for the Rams, still like question marks. They're 5-3 now, but you're still like, really don't know about these guys as they fall 28-17. You go to the next game. This is another really good game. Family business, AFC East. If these two teams say they ain't did it, then they ain't did it. But if they did, well, that's AFC East family business. You know how the family do it. Patriots at Bills, and this was a big one for the Bills. Patriots are dead. But if they wanted any chance of getting back in, if they were going to show signs of life, they needed to win this game. And Cam Newton actually did not play poorly in this game. He wasn't that bad. But the turnover at the end is going to overshadow everything that he had done to this point. I thought he ran it well in this game. I told you, the Patriots, in order to have a chance, told you this over a month ago, they've got to run the football. And Damian Harris was fantastic in this game. I really like him. I liked him at Alabama. He's emerging, and with Sony Michel always being injured, he's emerging as their lead guy in New England. And if they could ever get Sony Michel healthy and have Damian Harris, they'll have a hell of a 1-2 punch, sprinkling a little bit of Rex Burkhead and James White. They got some really good bats in New England. They can run it with the best of them. And when they get that run game revved up, they become dangerous because then you throw Cam into the run game and you go play action fake off of it. And then I talk about their receivers and the lack of talent there, and the Gunnar Olszewskis and the Demir Birds and the Zubiks of the world and the Jacoby Myers. Like, these guys are trash. However, you run the football and they become really average receivers, which is good enough to get it done. But when they're not able to run it, those guys are trash. And you're not going to be able to get the separation, especially without Edelman, who's banged up. You're not going to get separation. You're not going to get big wins. And, with Cam, his best work is done when guys are running wide open. Not that he can't throw guys open, but he likes to see them open. They ran it effectively in this game. It opened up the pass game. Cam was really accurate with the football. They had a chance to steal this one on the road. This is the dagger, I think. They're now 2-5 of the Patriots. There's no coming back from this one. You needed this one in the worst way. And there was a psychological game that you were still playing with Buffalo. Since Bill Belichick has taken over in New England, I think he's something like 25-5 or 20-5 or something like that versus the Bills. And so it's been total domination over the Bills. There's a psychological edge that he has. And if they would have come back and won this game, Bills fans would have still been saying, and that organization would have still been saying, damn, we can't beat New England to save our lives, man. This is some bullshit. But they got that monkey off their back with this win. Josh Allen was solid. The running game was solid. I really like Zach Moss, man. I think they've got a nice little 1-2 tandem on their hands with Devin Singletary and Zach Moss. A healthy Moss gives them another option in the run game. They continue to throw the football very effectively. This is a good game for them and a good test. They're missing the ability to stop the run, though. That if there is an Achilles heel with this Buffalo Bills football team, it's their inability to stop the run. We saw what Derrick Henry did to them. We saw what the Chiefs did to them on a wet, cold day in Orchard Park on a Tuesday or a Monday night. I think it was a Monday afternoon. We continue to see teams run the football effectively against this Bills defense. We saw the Rams run it, especially Henderson. Just gutted them in that game. It happened again in this game. Too many yards on the ground. And even on that Cam fumble, that was a hell of a gain there. That's a 1st and 10 or a 2nd and 10 carry for Cam, and it looks like a gain of 8 or 9, and he gets stripped. Hell of a play there by Zimmer, their defensive tackle, to hustle, force the fumble, and get it recovered by one of his teammates. The Bills are vulnerable defensively this year. For whatever reason, they cannot stop the run. But their offense is good enough to tango with just about anybody in the league. I'll put up Josh Allen, Cole Beasley, Stephon Diggs, John Brown, and he wasn't healthy in this game, but when he's healthy, this offense is even more dynamic. And Gabe Davis, who had a big drop in the end zone. That was a tough catch. I'm not going to kill him for that one. But if he catches that, we're not having this discussion about the Patriots, almost winning this game, more likely than not. But they've got, Dawson Knox at tight end, Tyler Kroft. Like, I just, all the running backs I talked about, I just love all of this collection of stuff offensively. I'll put their offense up against anybody's in the league when they're healthy and right. But their defense, man, they're giving it up on the ground. My goodness. They find a way to get it done. Cam coughs it up late. But a big win for Buffalo, for their psyche, for their mental, and stretching out their lead on the division. Even though Miami wins, you still feel like the Dolphins aren't going to really do anything, right? Like, there's no way the Bills are going to lose this division to the Dolphins. They've already beaten them once in Miami. They needed to beat New England. That was the mental hurdle that they had to clear. They did that with this win, 24-21. They're now 6-2 on the season, are the Bills. And I think that this is a team right now that, again, not a lot of people are talking about Buffalo, but, or they're 5-3. Are they 5-3? I'm trying to think. They lost to Kansas City. They lost to Tennessee. That's their only 2 losses, correct? Correct. I feel like those are their only 2 losses this season. So I'm trying to think, did they have a bye week? I don't think they have. So yeah, let's put them at 6-2 right now. Big win for them, and they buried the Patriots. And if you're a Bills fan, that's what you ultimately wanted to do. You wanted to bury the Patriots season, and you did that. They're now 2-5. Vegas at the Browns. This was a fun game because of the weather, and I looked around the league, and it looked like fall. You know, November hits, the calendar turns to the 11th month of the year, and it just looked like November. You know, last week of October, it was 70 and sunny around the league, and yeah, one snow game, but for the most part, it was still nice. You know, in most different stadiums around the league, it looked like fall around the league. This game here, the wind was howling. You know, trash bags and paper and shit just flying all over the field. I mean, it was fun to see that. You know, there was one kick that the wind just took the kick and destroyed it, hit it up against the upright. Like the ball was doing all kinds of funky stuff in the air. You had to really be careful. You know, it was another windy game in Buffalo. It was another windy game that I watched in Denver. In Green Bay, it was windy. They had, I want to say there was a mix of sleet and hail. They called it like, it started with a G something. It's crazy. It looked like fall. And this game to me epitomized fall in Cleveland. The Raiders come out on top 16-6. And this was old school smash mouth football. This is what John Gruden, he relishes this. They built this offensive line. They spent all this money on the offensive line for games like this one right here, where you're going to hand it off to the backs 40 times. You know, Jacobs, I think he might have had 30 carries in this game. Devontae Booker had at least 7 or 8 carries himself, and he was really impressive. I think they handed it to Jalen Richard a couple of times. And then Derek Carr was like, you know what? Let me get involved with my legs in the run game, too. He even kept a read option play. I'm like, Derek, is that you? You know, Derek's like, yeah, I said I was going to use my legs a little bit more, and here I am. So this was a heavy run, game plan because of the weather, and the Raiders executed it beautifully. The Browns helped them out with some mistakes. Jarvis Landry with a touchdown that he wasn't able to hold on to. That would have been a massive play. That would have given them a 10-6 lead. Instead, they tied it up at 6. They would not score the remainder of the game. And so they struggled, did the Browns offensively. And meanwhile, the Raiders were able to run the football extremely effectively. They didn't do a good enough job of corralling Derek Carr. They had some costly penalties in this game. And when plays needed to be made, the Raiders, they made them. Now, there was a controversial call on the touchdown by Hunter Renfrow. Looked like the ball hit the ground. Did he have control? They ruled it a touchdown on the field. They couldn't overturn it. I thought that was like sort of like the football gods wronging or right, because I actually thought that the touchdown in the corner to Henry Ruggs III was a touchdown. And they called that incomplete on the field, and it was too close to overturn. I thought you could see a little bit of green from the back angle. When you look at it at the front angle, it looks like there isn't any green in between. And it was too hard to overturn, but I thought it was a touchdown. And so the Hunter Renfrow touchdown, I thought was a kind of football gods kind of making a wrong right. And this was a big win because the Raiders are a team that I think they're going to be around. Like, I was ready to dismiss them. Remember, I talked about that stretch of football. Could they navigate it? They did it. They found a way to go on the road and beat Kansas City. They go back on the road. They beat Cleveland. They've had some tough losses in between there. Buffalo at home, Tampa at home. But for the most part, they've been road warriors this season. They've found ways to win. They go to Carolina and win. They've been better on the road than they have at home. You could just argue and say, hey, they're tougher competition and games have been at home, but Kansas City on the road, okay? Cleveland on the road, all right? They've won some really good games on the road this season, and I've been impressed with the Raiders. And here we are. They're 4-4. They're right in the mix. They're continuing to compete, and they're going to be a fun team to watch because they play just enough defense and they can run the football. And as it gets colder outside, that travels anywhere. And they're going to be an interesting team to watch, are the Raiders, as they get it done. I'm not sold on the Browns. I told you that already. I'm not sold on the Browns. And they didn't do enough offensively in this game. They missed some opportunities. They didn't stop the Raiders. The Raiders possessed the football a ton in this game. Really kept Cleveland off the field offensively. This was a short game, shortened by the possessions by the Raiders, shortened by the weather and the Raiders keeping the ball on the ground. But when they had offensive opportunities, they didn't maximize. They didn't take advantage. And so they fall in this game to the Browns, and they could easily had lost last week, and we would be talking about a Browns team that's at 500. Instead, they're 5-3 on the season, are the Cleveland Browns. But they feel like they're trending in the wrong direction. That's just me, but we'll see what happens. As we get to the next game up, Chargers at Denver. Man, if you're a Chargers fan, this shit gets old fast. Like, I tweeted out right after this game, I watched the ending of this game yesterday. I watched the rest of it today. But I checked in right around like 8 minutes left in the fourth quarter. Just enough time to see Drew Lock hit. First of all, stupid penalty by Nasir Adderley, I think it was, that ran over and hit Philip Lindsay out of bounds. Picked up a dumb penalty, and then I see him hit the Penn State, Deshaun Hamilton in stride for a touchdown. Get him back in the game, and I'm thinking, are y'all really about to do this? You were up 21-3, and it was crazy how it happened. It was 7-3, and the Chargers were up. They get a touchdown. Like it was Justin Herbert went nuts the end of the first half into the second half, and it's just big play after big play. He throws a big ball to Mike Williams right before the half, down to the 2. He rolls out to his right, finds neighbor, touchdown right before the half. They turn around, get the ball to start the second half, so it's like a double dip opportunity. They score again. They get some big contributions, some big plays out of this running back. I forget his name, number 35, but he jumped in there and he had a big game. And you're seeing Justin Jackson do some good things, and the rookie out of UCLA he bust off a big run at one point, and they just got it going, man. They got it going, and they score another touchdown, and it's 21-3, and they got Denver on their heels, and they score another field goal, and you're like, man, they got him. And then Drew Lock throws an interception. It's picked off by their safety, and he returns it deep into Broncos territory, and you're saying this is the dagger, right? I mean, if you're up 24-3 against Denver, the game should be over. Drew Lock isn't playing well enough to bring them back from a 21-point deficit. But you score anything here, and it's a 4-possession game essentially, because they're not getting 3 touchdown, 3 2-point conversions. So get something here, and he got greedy. He went to the well one too many times to Mike Williams, one-on-one coverage, throws it up. It's picked off by Bryce Callahan. It's a great play by Bryce Callahan. It really is. And from that point forward, the momentum in the game totally shifted to the Broncos. And they started making big plays, and Jerry Jeudy's making plays, and Philip Lindsay rips off a massive 60-yard touchdown run, and all of a sudden they're back in the game, and they're playing with confidence, and they're just chipping away at the lead. It's 24-10, then it's 24-17, then the Chargers get a field goal and they make it 27, and then they get the touchdown, and to Deshaun Hamilton, then it's 27-24, and you're like, they're really doing this. And then the Chargers have a chance to put this game away. Got to settle for a field goal instead of being able to get it into the end zone. They go up 30-24 with just about a minute left in the game. And I'm thinking to myself, oh my God, Drew Lock's dancing. He's like, I say, oh my God, he's comfortable. He's about to do this. That's my guy. I'm a Drew Lock guy. I said, he's about to do this. And sure enough, he gets the football. And I think he was aided with a Chargers penalty or two. The 4th down, back of the end zone. I don't think this pass is being completed, but the safety never turns around and looks. They call PI. It was the right call. He was mugging the guy, never looked back for the ball. Puts the ball at the 1 yard line. And they do a great job of first down, second down, stopping Denver. They get them to like a third down situation. There's 7 seconds left or something like that. Maybe 5 seconds. This is the game. I think it's 4th and 8 or, 4th and something, whatever. This is the ball game. Whatever the case may be, this is the last play of the game. If they don't make it here, Chargers are going to survive 30-24. And I'm thinking in my head, they're going to lose this game because they're the Chargers. And sure enough, they run a sprint right with Drew Lock. He gets outside the pocket. He's got his receiver, KJ Hamler, right here by the pylon. And a defender's running with him. And inexplicably, he leaves him to go to Drew Lock. And I'm thinking to myself, there are 2 Denver defenders over there. One's trying to get over there. The other is guarding KJ Hamler, and he leaves him. He needed to stay with Hamler until that other defender got close enough to where he could pass him off. And this is my thought process. It's easy to say this in the moment. I'm not on the field with Drew Lock approaching the pylon. Drew Lock isn't a tremendous athlete. If that was Justin Herbert running that football, if that were Patrick Mahomes, who's an underrated athlete, if that were Ryan Tannehill, if that were Russell Wilson, if that were Lamar Jackson, or if that was Kyler Murray, yeah, you probably need to come off a little bit sooner, because if that guy threatens the pylon, he's going to beat you there, and it's going to be a touchdown. It's Drew Lock, though. He's like 7 yards away. He's not beating you to the sticks. He's not beating you to that pylon, bro. Hold your water for a second. Let your guy get over there a little bit closer to KJ Hamler, pass him off, and then you go attack Drew Lock. Instead, he immediately leaves Hamler, goes to Lock. Lock dumps it to Hamler. Hamler's able to get 1 foot and 1 ass cheek in bounds. And the Broncos are now tied with the Chargers at 30, pending the extra point. They're going to win this football game. And of course, Mormon knocks it through the upright. I always call him Mormon. What is his damn name? Always forget his name. He knocks it through the upright. And the Broncos win this game 31-30. Are you kidding me? God damn it, Chargers. And I tweeted out right after the game, Chargers are the AFC version of the Falcons. I've never seen anything like it. They create and invent ways just like Atlanta on a weekly basis. They figure out ways to lose. They get creative with it too. They don't just lose in normal fashion. They create and invent ways to give it up. Unbelievable. Big win for the Broncos. Both teams coming into the game were 2-4. So this is a big game. You get one step closer to 500. We keep saying, I'm tired of saying this. I'm sick of it. The Chargers are the best 1-4 team. The Chargers are the best 2. F that. They don't know how to win. I don't want to hear the Chargers are the best 2-5 team. They're 2-5 for a reason. They don't know how to win. And now Denver's 3-4. Denver's 3-4. And if you ask me, who could do more with 3-4? I tell you, it's the Chargers all day long. They're the team that's capable of taking the 3-4 mark and turning it into, 8-6 as we get down the stretch with a chance to get into the postseason. Not Denver. But yeah, it's Denver that's 3-4 because the Chargers don't know how to win. They blew it against Kansas City. They blew it against New Orleans. They blew it again here. They had no business losing at home to Carolina when the Panthers still weren't any good. They just don't know how to win. And that's why they're 2-5 now. Big win for the Denver Broncos, man. Drew Lock was awesome on that final drive. That's my guy. Those guys got a bunch of weapons. Albert O stepped up with a touchdown in this game. KJ Hamler with the game winner. He was big in this game. Jerry Jeudy's starting to really get comfortable and acclimated now. There were a lot of drops early in the season. He made some good catches in this ball game. Deshaun Hamilton with the big catch late in this game to help them rally back. So you're getting contributions from everywhere on this football team. Despite not having your best receiver in Cortland Sutton, they're finding ways to get it done. And that's a big win for the Denver Broncos. Saints at Bears. This was a wild one in terms of the finish. The Bears, they're just so inept offensively. But yet, with Nicholas Foles under center, you just don't know what's going to happen. Ultimately, you get a 26-23 Saints victory in overtime. Both teams had the football, possessed it. The Saints got it twice, and they ultimately scored on their last possession. They won the toss in overtime. They weren't able to score on their opening possession. The Bears get an opportunity. They weren't able to score on theirs, and the Saints got it once more, and Drew Brees took them down. I thought it was a controversial decision to kick the field goal on first down with the Bears not having any timeouts and 1:13 left. If you missed that field goal there, the Bears would have had an opportunity to get in the field goal range. And if you're asking me, Sean Payton has to run that clock down and play for the win or it's a tie. You cannot put yourself in a position to lose in that situation. He got lucky. His kicker made the kick. Will Lutz put the ball through the uprights. So there's really not a discussion to be had. But I think you got to manage the clock better in overtime there if you're the Saints. But let's go back to the beginning of this game because there's no Michael Thomas. There's no Eman Sand. And again, here are the Saints finding a way to get it done with Traquan Smith and Taysom Hill and all these guys that they have out there that you're just amazed by. Like, really? They're gonna win with this group again? Yeah, yes they are. They're gonna do it again. It's amazing that they just find ways. Credit that Bears defense for giving them a chance. Hanging in this game, hanging in, giving them a chance. And the offense came alive at the end. Allen Robinson, hashtag free Allen Robinson. He needs out. He was frustrated, so much so at one point of this game, he walked away from the offense as they were having a meeting and didn't want anything to do with them. He's the best thing they got offensively, and they don't get him the football enough. He makes these ridiculous, I can't tell you how many ridiculous catches, including a touchdown grab he had in the back of the end zone. He made ridiculous catch after ridiculous catch, and they still didn't feed him. Like, there's no excuse for this guy not having 12 targets a game. None. No reason. I don't and I thought this was a poorly called game by Matt Nagy. We criticized him for not running it enough last year. Now he's running it too much. My dad was like, what the hell is this guy doing? I said, I told you this dude's a clown. He said, this guy's definitely got to be a clown. What is he doing? And it's not like they were having success running the football. They were running into a brick wall most of the afternoon, and he continued to do it. And they got lucky that this game even made it to overtime. Nicholas Foles had fourth down conversion after fourth down conversion after third and long conversion. In this game, the Saints were entirely way too soft defensively in some crucial third and long situations. A 3rd and 16, they give up 14, allow a 4th and 2 conversion. It's 3rd and 17, they give up 18 and a first down. Like, what are you guys doing anyway? Seriously. 3rd and 13, you give up 11 because you're soft, and they convert again. Like, what are you doing? Foles was magnificent on that last drive of regulation, taking them and getting them in the field goal range. I swore that Cairo Santos was going to miss. I said, Dad, he's going to miss. Like, boss, he's definitely missing his kick. He's like, nah, man, he going to make this kick. And he made the damn kick. Sending it to overtime. Saints, big run from Kamara. And he's really the one keeping them afloat. Taysom Hill with a nice catch and run for a touchdown in this game. But it's really Kamara that's keeping them afloat with all these injuries offensively. At some point, and maybe it's week 9 versus Tampa, at some point, they're going to get all their stuff back. But if they continue to have to do this against the better teams in the league, they're going to lose. Like, they're not beating Tampa with this group offensively. They're not going to beat the Buccaneers. If they don't get Michael Thomas back next week, if they don't get Emmanuel Sanders, they got to have at least one of those guys back next week to have a chance. But they find a way again. And that's 3 in a row after being at one point, I think they were 1-2 on the season. Now that's 3 in a row. And the Saints are, I think they're 5-3 right now. 5-2, 5-3. No, they're 5-2 because they're tied with the Bucs atop the division. And it's a big win. Big win for them. And we expect the Bucs to get the win tonight and get to 5-2. And that's going to set up a massive Week 9 showdown between the two best teams in the NFC South division. Tough loss for the Bears. They're now 5-3 on the season. And remember, they were once 4-0, were these Bears. They've now lost 3 out of their last 4 contests, and a lot of the blame can be placed on the shoulders of this offense. They're just not good enough offensively. You lose to the Colts in a game you score 11 points. You lose to the Rams in a game in which you only scored 10 points. They're just not good enough offensively right now, and it's not all the personnel. I don't want to hear that it's the personnel. Start looking at the coach. Start there, and then we can trickle our way down to the personnel. But start at the head coach, Matt Nagy, and his ability to put guys in positions to make plays and call the right plays at the right time. I don't think that's being done right now in Chicago, as they're now 5-3 after this 26-23 loss in overtime. San Francisco at Seattle. This was a beatdown of epic proportions. The score doesn't tell the story. 37-27 ended up being the final score, but this game was 30-7 at one point. DK Metcalf was going off. They had no answer for Russell Wilson, and the Seahawks defensively, they looked like juggernauts in this game. They knocked Jimmy Garoppolo out of the game. George Kittle left this game, and all these injuries happened when the game was well out of the question. You know what I mean? Like the game was no longer in balance. The 49ers season is done. Officially done. This game ended any hopes of the 49ers having a real season, with Garoppolo now being put on the shelf for at least a month and a half. Kittle out for at least 8 weeks. I mean, at this point, by the time those guys are eligible to come back, this season is going to be done, you know, in terms of the competitive portion of it. Unless for somehow the 49ers are able to navigate their division, which is among the toughest in football, and, you know, a schedule that's going to be, you know, a first place schedule that's going to be playing some of the better teams in the league, like the Saints, you know, like the Packers. You got the Packers, matter of fact, on Thursday Night Football coming up. Unless you're able to navigate that, which I don't think you are with the likes of Nick Mullins and CJ Beathard, this season's done. I think this was the final nail in the coffin of what was just an abysmal season from a health standpoint. They fought as long as they could, but I talked about this last week. I said the Deebo Samuel injury to me is the biggest injury of all of them. You know, obviously, you know, when we talk about injuries, the first one you start at is Nick Bosa, and then you work your way down defensively. But to me, the biggest injury offensively all season long was Deebo Samuel. You know, you missed him in week 1 against Arizona. That's a very winnable game. You got Deebo Samuel. I think you win that game. But he comes back, and you saw this offense light up like Christmas lights. Like, all of a sudden, they had that pep in their step again. You know, and he gets injured last week in the win over New England. And I said, that's the injury that's going to be the death of you. You know, you've got too many injuries, and that injury right there is going to be the one that pushes you over the top. And you could see the offense just didn't have any juice. They don't have any juice without Deebo Samuel. They do so much with him. He creates so many opportunities for others that with that injury, I was like, this is the one that's really going to hurt them. And it did. And they were stagnant. The too many mistakes. DK Metcalf was just a man possessed in this game. Remember, he had a lackluster performance the week prior versus Arizona. You know, he had the rundown tackle, but offensively, he was a non-factor. You know, had the overtime touchdown negated by a penalty. Was the right call. He wasn't a factor. Only like 3 catches last week. Very minimal impact offensively. That was not the case. By the time the first half was done, he might have already been in triple figures receiving yards wise, and he might have already had 2 touchdowns in the game. They had no answers for him. Simply put, no answers for DK Metcalf whatsoever. Russell Wilson, who started off the game rough, they were hitting him, they were pressuring him, settled in. They had no answers for Russ, and before you know it, the game was 30-7. I turned away from it. It got to as close as 30-20, but the Seahawks win that game 37-27, run their mark to 6-1 on the season due to the Seattle Seahawks. And, you know, they're one of the best teams in the NFC. And we'll get to see them for the first time with defensive end Carlos Dunlap and what he'll be able to bring, because we know they're struggling getting to the opposition's quarterback. We'll see if Carlos Dunlap can infuse and inject a little bit of life into what has been a lifeless pass rush for the Seattle Seahawks. talked about the Sunday night game on Sunday night. It was awful. I really don't want to rehash it. Philadelphia wins the game 23-9. They're 3-4-1 with the victory. Wentz turned it over 4 times in that game. I mean, just anybody else in that division, Giants, Washington, they lose this game. I don't care. They lose this game. You turn it over 4 times, you're supposed to lose. But they were able to win because Dallas is just abysmal, and they're playing with essentially third stringers across the board. It seems like everywhere on the offensive side of the football, outside of receiver. You know, backup tight end, backup offensive line, back third string quarterback. It was rough, but Eagles get the win, and they're now 3-4-1. They got a bye week. They'll be in first place when they come off that bye, no matter what happens. Dallas drops to 2-6. They're crazy if they think they can still make something of this season. If you can get something for any of those players that are available to be traded, if I'm Dallas, I'm going to go ahead and move on that right now while I still can. And so let's get to our last segment of the show, and that's going to be garbage time. Let's get to garbage time real quick and wrap this thing on up. We got a Monday night game tonight. Bucks at Giants. This could get ugly, or it could not. I had somebody hit me up the other day on socials, was like, yo, this is gonna be a massacre. Hey, let's pray for the Giants. And I said, look, you know, my man Reed even asked me, what do you think? Can we put 40 up on the Giants? We can put a 40 burger on these boys or what? And I said, look, the Giants play defense, man. It's not elite, but it's enough to stop you from embarrassing them, okay? If Daniel Jones turns it over, yeah, they're gonna get a 40 burger put on their skulls tonight. If Daniel Jones doesn't turn it over and is able to just, you know, even if it's just punting, if you just punt, their defense is good enough to keep this thing respectable for 3.5 quarters. So, in my estimation, the Bucks. There's no doubt the Bucks are winning this game tonight. That's not in question. You know, with all the upsets that we've seen, this will not be one of them. I feel really confident in saying that. We've seen some upsets this week, but this is not going to be one of them. However, I don't think this is going to be as ugly as you think. And ultimately, I think it's going to be 31-10. That's what I think the final score is going to be in this game. But it's going to be an easy Bucks victory. And I think that's ultimately how this one goes. The Giants are dead. You know, there are people out there that think the Giants are in this division. The Giants aren't in this division. They're the one team that I look at and say, they're not in this division. Everybody else is at least at 2 wins. They're not. And I just don't think they're going to be able to do enough to make anything of it in this division. And so, you know, they needed to beat Philadelphia last week. And they had an opportunity and they let it slip through their fingers. And games like that are ultimately what's going to cost them. They had a chance to beat the Bears earlier this season. They had a chance to beat Pittsburgh in week 1. It's those types of, you had a chance to beat Dallas, but we're up big on them early in that game. Those are the types of games that are going to come back and haunt them when they look at this season and say, damn, we had a shot. You're right, you had a shot, but you don't have a shot tonight. So that's going to do it for me, your man Louie T, on the 106th installment of the Louie T Network podcast. I thank you guys for joining me. I look forward to jumping on with you guys on Wednesday and wrapping up that and getting to some social media maneuvers on Wednesday's show. We'll break down the Monday night game tonight here on the Louie T Network. So join me for that as we get into Monday Night Football overtime. Also, look forward to chopping it up with you guys during the game. If you're a Washington fan and you want to chop it up with your man Louie T, we're going to be doing that on Flick. MOBB, stand up. We in the building. As always, I'll create a stream for the game tonight so we can chop it up and watch one of our fellow family members be offered up and slaughtered tonight by the Buccaneers, and we'll enjoy watching it together. So if you're interested, the link is down in the description of this video and every video that I do. Click that link, join the family, join the community. MOBB, Mob Squad. and we'll watch the game together tonight. So until then, I'm your man Louie T signing off. Remember, if it's not your man T, it's not, I repeat, not the best NFL coverage it could be. Enjoy the festivities tonight. We'll break it down then. We'll come back on Wednesday. We'll talk about this game. And then we'll get to your comments. The trade deadline would have already expired. How many big moves will we get? Will we get any more moves? Will we get any big names switching teams? Who's going to push their chips to the center of the table? We'll see, and we'll talk about all of those things and then some on Wednesday's show. Until then, I'm your man Louie T. Adios. See you guys next time.
LouieTeeNetwork.